Hello and welcome to the ORH Podcast. It's been a couple of weeks since you heard from us due to other commitments, but myself and Adam are back to talk all about what has been a very busy week for Luton Town, with results against Huddersfield and Bolton following on from a terrible defeat away from home at Barnsley. But before we do that, Adam, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you, mate. You said it's been we haven't spoken for a week or so, but it's been the roller coaster of Luton Town, isn't it? Really summed up particularly in two games within sort of 3 days. So yeah, we'll touch briefly on Barnsley and move very swiftly on, and then obviously look at home games that we've had Tuesday and the weekend as well.
Yeah, it's been a big few days a big week or so for Jack Wilshere's side. Obviously, starting with that big 5-0 defeat away at Barnsley, which we'll talk about briefly. So if you don't want to hear about that, you can skip ahead to where we start talking a bit more positive, but I'm sure we won't be on it for long. But before that, don't forget to go to oakrocroadhatter.com to check out all of our content. If you're looking for any Christmas gifts, check out our merch page and you might be able to find something for someone on there, even if they're not a Luton fan. Maybe they'll really enjoy you winding them up with some Luton-style presents. Before we do that, just need to discuss Adam's moustache, because November is over, but he is still rocking a little caterpillar on the top lip.
Yeah, well, I haven't decided yet whether it's going to stay or go. So, and seeing as we're only 11 hours or so into December, I've given myself a bit of leeway. So, watch this space. We'll probably do another recording after the weekend, something like that. So you'll have a better understanding of whether it's staying or not at that point.
Well, he's rocking the moustache in a strong way at the moment. So we'll see how his face is looking after the weekend's results, as he mentions there. But let's get straight into it, because let's talk about that Barnsley game, because we did not expect this result that we saw. That 5-0 defeat, obviously away from home. The Luton fans that travelled up there had a terrible day out, with, I know, a lot of them leaving before full time. Obviously, we were 3-0 down at half time, so you can't really blame them.
No, a pretty shocking day when we look back on it. I mean, we spoke in the preview to the game around it would be a tough one because they've got some really good players. They've got a manager who played at a really good level as well, and is probably a similar type of manager to Wilshere, in that kind of like young ex-midfielder wants his teams to play in a certain way, and they pretty much dominated us from start to finish. I was on the concourse at Hemel versus Horsham with some mates, just watching my phone bleep with notifications from live score, and I think at the end I just turned my phone off at about when it got to 5, not wanting to hear any more from it. So yeah, a really tough day. I mean, I mentioned there we got dominated throughout. I mean, Barnsley could have scored 8 or 9 and we couldn't really have had any complaints. Like when you look at the extended highlights, between goals 1 and 2, they had 3 really good chances, and not like half chances either. So yeah, they hit the woodwork a couple of times, obviously scored 5, several really good opportunities, and we just got absolutely battered from start to finish. And when I look at the game and the highlights as well, everything seemed to be the Cleary versus Izzy Jones battle down their left-hand side, our right-hand side, and Cleary just had the beating of Jones all afternoon. We didn't seem to double up. We didn't seem to make a change to kind of mitigate that. It was just an absolute bombardment. And yeah, it was just a bit of a shocker, and one to move on from very quickly. And we were lucky to be able to do that, with a home game 3 days later as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that we were able to bounce back, but let's just talk briefly about some of those individual performances against us, because before the game we highlighted the likes of Davis Keillor-Dunn and Luca Connell, and those two really did perform as well. That brilliant free kick from Connell and Keillor-Dunn grabbing a goal and an assist. But you mentioned Reyes Cleary there, and he just tore Jones apart in that first half, and then proceeded to do it again in the second half to Dauphin a little less so, I guess, but still very, very effective from him. Another player who just sort of escaped my attention going into it, but he's someone that EFL fans and Barnsley fans in particular seem very excited about, is Vimal Yoganathan, who, whilst he didn't get a goal involvement against us, he played very, very well. And every time he gets the ball, he looks really dangerous. And he's only 19, and he's a very slight build in terms of the way he looks, but he seems really combative and like an exciting young player for them. So Barnsley have got a good young side there with some very good attacking players in it. But it was important that we bounced back from that, and it didn't take too long. Obviously, we then went into a game on Tuesday against Huddersfield, because we'll move on from that big defeat now, because we went into a game against Huddersfield, who is a side we've got some history against, obviously with that playoff defeat a few years ago. And I was pleased with how we played for the large part in that game. There was a couple of moments where you thought we should be doing more here, but we started well. We sort of dominated a lot of the ball when we had it, and we got some shots away. And we were able to find a winning goal in what at one stage looked like it might be a game that goes away from us.
Yeah, I thought I wasn't quite sure what the reaction would be, particularly from the fans. When you've been hammered at the weekend, and then you've got a home game 3 days later, you think, is it going to be hostile from the off? But it wasn't really. I mean, I think it was helped by the fact that we actually played pretty well. I thought the performance on a whole was decent, and we were on the front foot pretty much from the start. So that was nice to see. Obviously, there probably were words that were had after the Barnsley game, and a lot of time on the coach home and whatever for players to reflect on their individual performances as well. But yeah, we came out, we started well against Huddersfield, and certain players in that game really stood out. I think Lamine Fanne played particularly well, playing higher up the pitch, which he seems to be getting a lot better at, and I would say probably is actually shaping more now into a progressive midfielder than the defensive midfielder that we signed, which is really good. He got an assist, which for the winning goal, which harsh on him not to get the goal himself, because we know that Yates sort of tapped it in from a yard out and then proceeded to celebrate like he'd scored a Cristiano Ronaldo style free kick, which was I won't go into that because it would just annoy me again. But yeah, Fanne was really good. And then I thought actually as well, Richards and Bramall were also the two that really stood out. So it's good to see that we've got that mixture of a couple of younger players that are really kind of stepping up and taking the game to teams. And then you've got someone that's more experienced like Bramall, with the energy and the legs on the left-hand side, that's really stringing together some pretty decent performances at the moment as well.
Well, you mentioned free kicks there, and we did concede a second free kick in 2 games, and it was what Leo Castledine scored. An absolute worldie of a free kick. Like the way he curved that ball, not into the side of the goal he was lining up on, but the opposite top corner, was maybe one of the best free kicks I've seen in a long time. It was just sort of unsavable for any goalkeeper, I think, despite some arguments from some people that maybe another keeper might save it. I just don't think they would. I just think the way he hit it, the pace he got on it, the sort of the bend on it as well.
And the whip,
It was just absolutely world class, that free kick.
Yeah, and like someone said, Keeley moves to his left and then moves back. He could have stood where he was and he wouldn't have got it, because he's put it. You couldn't go and place it with your hands more into the top corner than he did. So I absolutely agree. I think you've just got to sit back there and go, wow, that is an insane free kick. No keeper saving it. Again, the thing that annoyed me on that was giving away a needless free kick, which was Yates giving away a stupid free kick in that position. But you certainly can't assign any blame to anybody else with that free kick. That was quite a sensational finish.
Yeah, and we discussed Yates though. You've mentioned him a couple of times already in that game. He's someone that's come under a lot of criticism recently, particularly from us as well. I've had a lot of issues with sort of the way he sort of drifts around the pitch in the game. He never seems to be in that striker channel ever, but he was in that 70th minute sort of around then. And as you mentioned there, got on to what looked like it was going in from Fanne, that shot, which was his second effort after the ball came back, or after getting the ball back from his first. And whilst Yates didn't need to tap it in, I think for him, he really needed to get that tap in, and really sort of get that confidence, because you could see from his celebration it was a real release of frustration. And he is a very frustrating player to watch at times, because you know he can score goals at this level because he's done it before, but he just never seems to be in that channel. And then in that game, and obviously when he's playing as a lone striker, he just seems to be drifting wide constantly. And I don't know why, because he doesn't really offer much when he goes into those wide areas, because we've already got players there anyway. So yeah, hugely frustrating that he did that, but he did get the goal, and then hopefully that lifts him a bit going forward and makes him a bit more dangerous in front of goal in the league games, because we certainly need him to be finding the net.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him for tapping it in from a yard out, because he probably isn't necessarily thinking that he's got loads of space. He's probably thinking, there might be someone behind him that could potentially clear it off the line. So he's getting the job done, which is fine. The celebration was ridiculous. As I said, it was almost like the arms out, here I am, it's me. And you think, well, you've done absolutely fuck all for the rest of the game. So let's not give it the big one with a celebration. But I can't disagree with you. I mean, I don't quite see at the moment, and this extends to the game on Saturday against Bolton. I can't see what he offers us in leading the line. Like I know that we don't play long balls into the forward really anymore. So there may not be a need to have a big sort of like target man type striker, but he doesn't seem to get involved in the game. And I know that's, we are primarily using our build up in wide areas. We're going down both sides, and we use Bramall a lot, and we overlap, and we saw overlaps at the end of the Bolton game. We'll come on to that. But I don't see enough from him to get himself into the game. It's almost like he's waiting for that half opportunity to come his way, and it doesn't. And I just don't think he's doing enough to get himself involved and lead the line as I would expect a number 9 to do. And bear in mind that, the club put out, let's say, a quite exciting tweet in the summer when we signed him that this is our new marquee number 9. It's been flat, hasn't it? It's been really flat when you think about that build-up that the club gave it. And the fact he's wearing a number 9 shirt, and some very, very good players have worn that for us over the years, it's not anywhere near enough what he's doing at the moment. And that begs the question, and what I mentioned the other day is, we've got so many strikers at the club, but do we need another one? Because, you've got Yates and Wells that aren't prolific. You've got Nordas who can't get in the squad. Bode needs a loan. Al Hamidi's injured again. Adebayo, we don't know when he's going to be back fit. And then the only other one you've got is Jacob Brown. So, there's a big question there to be said. Do we need to go and get another striker in January? Someone that can lead the line and score goals as well.
But the problem there is, when you try and sign a player in January, they'll be significantly more expensive, and it's a risk as well. The January window just always seems to be more of a risk, because clubs will charge you more because they know you need it, rather than it's something you're looking to take some time to work on because they know it's a limited time frame. And finding that player in January could be really challenging.
Yeah, it probably will be. But then, is there a loan opportunity from Wilshere and his connections from a Premier League club? Maybe, like, is that feasible? It needs to be someone that's ready for the physicality and the challenge of League One. Like, I don't want us to go and get a kid from Arsenal because it's from Arsenal, but he's clearly not ready, like, physically. There's no point in that. But a lot of our squad at the moment seems fairly settled down, I would say, positionally. But I think the one thing we are really lacking is a goal scorer. And I've been open on here before and said I thought supply was a problem. I thought if supply came, Wells and Yates would start firing. I think probably that was not quite right. I think the supply is starting to come, but I'm not seeing the signs that we have a centre forward that's going to fire us to promotion, basically.
Yeah, it's concerning, I guess, because we have for a long time had strikers who will put the goals away constantly. Like when you obviously look at sort of Adebayo and Morris and those promotion seasons from the Championship, then Collins and Hilton and Marriott all before that as well. So just finding that player who's going to put away the chances that we're creating, because we are creating a lot of chances now. It's just, who is that player? Are they at the club already and they're just not available, or is it someone we're going to have to go out and get? And it just makes you wonder who would the club try and sign to fill that void. So let us know in the comments if there is a striker out there you think we should go after to fill that sort of goal scoring void up front, because we'll go into the Bolton game now, because it was a 1-1 draw and it was a good result actually against a very, very upwardly mobile Bolton side. They were unbeaten in 6 going into it, with a lot of late winners in those games as well, and some big wins over sides as well, with players like Kozia Dubry really, really shining at this level. He seems to be the player getting all of the headlines for Bolton at the moment.
Yeah, I thought they were a good team, I have to say. I thought they came with an identity. They look like a team that probably, I may be wrong on this, but don't stray from that formation too often, because everybody seemed to know their role, their responsibilities, and the way they play. The difference I found between them and us at times was, they play a lot of balls across the back and then go wide with it, but they do it at pace. And I found them sort of playing through us a reasonable amount, particularly in the first sort of like 15, 20 minutes. They've got Kozia Dubry, who we highlighted, but the other guy on the other side is, I think, Osei Tutu, who can't say I know much about, but I thought he was probably the better player of the two on the day. So they've got those very, very quick wide men, as do we, to be fair, but they've got those guys that are clearly cemented in the team. And then they've got the likes of Burstow up front, who's strong, reminded me quite a bit of Morris in that kind of similar height, similar build. I'm going to drop back in and get involved in the play, which ironically is what we've just spoken about that we are missing. And then they've got the goal scorer in, I think, Kyle Dempsey, isn't it? That is that attack-minded midfielder who does nip in with goals and has done through the last few seasons as well. So they've got a really good mixture to their squad. They've got a really weird number of players that have double-barreled surnames. I think they've got at least 4 that started at the weekend. So yeah, I didn't realise Bolton was so posh, but here's us learning something.
You've got Teddy Sharman Lowe, Josh Dackers Cogley, Geordie Osei Tutu, and Amari Kozia Dubry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what they're doing in Bolton, but they seem to be getting the double-barreled surnames in all over the pitch. You mentioned Osei Tutu there. Luton fans who went to Bochum away, which seems like and feels like a lifetime ago now, might remember him, because he was at Bochum for quite a while before Bolton signed him for a free in the summer. So he's someone who's played in the Bundesliga, who was in Arsenal's academy. He's been around a little while, but I think he seems to have established himself a bit in this Bolton side, which is a really exciting side under Steven Schumacher. They're, as we mentioned, they're very upwardly mobile, and they're getting some really good results with a settled team. Kyle Dempsey is a player who's very, very talented, as is Caden Morley in the midfield. And obviously they took the lead through Kyle Dempsey very early in the game, in the 8th minute. And for a while, it seemed like they might hold on. But then Xavi Simons, not that Xavi Simons, although maybe Tottenham would take this Xavi Simons at the moment. He made a bit of a rash challenge, I would say. And he was already on a yellow card when he did it. So it seemed like a bit of a stupid challenge to make in a pretty safe area of the pitch as well, to pick up that second yellow and that red card.
Yeah, and in real time, I thought it was a red for that tackle alone. I probably would downgrade that for having seen the replay, but there's no doubt it was a yellow card. And yeah, when you're on a yellow already, that's not the tackle to be making, is it? So no arguments with the yellow, and I think Bolton fans probably wouldn't argue either. I think by that point as well, we'd actually grown into the game quite well. So for me, I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't react straight away with the attacking changes, because it took us, I think, 12 minutes from that red to bring on Ali and Morris. And when we did that, I think it was Lomvik Lomvik went off. Like Naismith dropped to centre half. Bramwell dropped back a little bit, and Ali was on the left, and we sort of doubled up down there. Kadua was already on, and we brought Morris on as well, and we doubled up on the right hand side. So we really took it to them from that point. But I think had we done that pretty much instantly with the red card, I genuinely think we'd have gone on to win the game because, 10 more minutes of that, Bolton would have really struggled to hold on. We were getting, countless double ups on that right hand side, winning countless corners as well. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed we didn't make the changes quicker, but we absolutely deserved a point out of it as a minimum. And it hasn't really impacted the table that much because I think a lot of teams seem to have drawn at the weekend as well.
Yeah, we've obviously moved up to 7th now, 1 point behind Bolton in 6th. So we're now 1 point outside of the playoffs. And considering we've lost 7 games this season, it just says how tight the league is this season. Cardiff in 1st on 32, where we're in 7th on 27 points. So, yeah, I'm sure there'll be some Luton fans feeling very, very optimistic now because we are pretty upwardly mobile now. We're playing well for periods during games. We're playing very well and then sort of drifting in and out of games, which is not surprising really, given that we're probably still gelling to what Wilshere is looking to do a bit. We look positionally or formation-wise quite fluid in terms of his ideas, which is really positive that we can adapt during games, which is something we complained about a lot under Edwards in particular and then under Bloomfield as well. We've got players in positions, particularly in defence, where we've got depth as well. And someone I wanted to talk a bit about is Longvic, because he's come into the side or back into the side over the last couple of games, sort of in the middle of the back three, and has looked, I thought, very, very good in the Huddersfield game. I thought he was excellent. And then he was pretty good by all accounts against Bolton as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And he's a centre half, isn't he? We've said it countless times when we were struggling to find a right back that he's not a right back. Like, yeah, he can play there, but he's not a right back or he's not a right wing back. Or even on the left hand side, he's an ideal player to have because he can, in theory, play in any of those centre back positions. Whether it is right, left, or central. And he's done well. And I think he's benefited from the fact that he's had a couple of games back to back, a few games back to back, and can start to build the partnership with the likes of Mengi as well. So yeah, he's done really well. I was a little bit unsure at times, but he does seem to have settled down and is picking up a bit of confidence.
And then obviously someone else who's come into the side recently because of what Jordan Clark's absence is Liam Walsh, and he seems to have really stepped up a bit, especially over the last couple of games. I thought he was excellent against Huddersfield. When he plays well, and I've actually said about how much I rate him on a number of occasions, and it's not just because, like me, he's a short, dark-haired midfielder playing alongside a giant in Saville, whilst I host this podcast alongside a giant in yourself or Jamie when he's about. But he's very technically gifted and combative as well, which I think really balances well in that midfield when we've got him and Saville next to each other and then Fanne's able to roam a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we have to say is that Walsh was lucky to be playing in the Huddersfield game because he should have had a second yellow card as clear as day at Barnsley. I mean, and that would have been his 4th red for us or something. I think he had 3 last season, didn't he? So yeah, he was very, very lucky to be on the pitch at Barnsley and obviously then on the pitch on the Tuesday night. But I do agree. I thought particularly on Saturday, he got himself about. He got his foot on the ball, and that's what we want to see from him. Like, we don't want to see the Walsh that is waiting to receive passes where Barnsley nipped off for their first goal because we're waiting for the ball to come to us. Like, we want to see him being that terrier and being proactive on the ball. And yeah, he definitely was that on Saturday and played pretty well on Tuesday night as well. So long may that continue. Long may he be available because it does, it adds to the competition for places.
And it is nice having that balance in the side as well, and sort of midfielders playing in the right areas of midfield and letting our more attacking players sort of roam around a bit more. They're able to roam a bit more freely when we've got the ball and sort of run into different channels. I think Brown does it really well. He sort of spreads the game wider into those wing channels, and he can also get into the box as well. So he's a bit more of an all-round threat. And then Fanne, as you mentioned already on this episode, is really sort of coming into his own in those attacking areas of the pitch. I thought him in probably the last month, maybe, as obviously one player of the month, but
yeah,
it's the best he's looked in a Luton shirt by quite a comfortable distance. And he looks really strong when he's sort of moving with the ball, and he's able to go past players pretty easily. And he was obviously quite a big price tag for the division, but sometimes that does happen at this level, and then those players have to step up, and he has done recently.
Yeah, true. But we did sign him when we were in the Championship, and with when he joined us eventually in the January, we still had a good 5 months of the season left, didn't we? So we've not gone and forked out a load being a League One club for him. But I am quite impressed with him. I mean, I think it's good man management as well. Wilshere left him out at Barnsley and said, "I'm doing it to make him hungry," and then he came in against Huddersfield and Bolton and has been really, really good. So that you have to say that's good management. Now, whether we continue to run him into the ground and play him next couple of games, we'll come on to them. But we've got tomorrow and then Saturday in the Virtue and the FA Cup. Obviously, not our bread and butter. So I would probably say that he may well get a rest in one or both of those games, depending on availability of others. But for me, when it comes to league games, Orient on the 9th and onwards to the end of December, we've got five league games and 3 at home. So it's a big month to be able to make a move, and I think he's definitely someone we need to keep fit and keep in the team.
And someone else who's excelled over the last games, probably since Stockport, maybe just before that, is Cohen Bramwell on the left-hand side. And he's a player that I think questions were asked across the board when he was brought in as our left-sided defender, as our left back, left wing back sort of thing. But
yeah,
he has just been so good recently. Going forward in particular, he's so fast, as we mentioned. And every game his crossing seems to get better. And it's since that Stockport game when he obviously got that brilliant free kick as well. He just seems to be very, very confident and really enjoying his football, and he's so dangerous when he plays well.
Yeah, and I have to hold my hands up and say I was wrong on the call on him, because when we lost Doughty and you thought, right, we're still shaping up under Bloomfield to have wing backs, and we signed Bramwell, who had been let go by Rotherham, or let go by Portsmouth, but on loan at Rotherham or something like that, one of the two. At 30 years old, you're thinking, well, this isn't like for like. This isn't a signing of intent. This is a signing of saving pennies. But we've done both. We've saved a few quid by not spending millions on a left wing back or a left back, but we've also got somebody who's playing really well. So yeah, he's absolutely one that's impressed. The only thing with that is if he gets injured right now, what do you do? And how I think we have to manage his minutes as well, because I would have said at the start of the season, like, he'd play Virtue Trophy, play FA Cup, but actually he's pivotal to us playing league games, isn't he? So we definitely have to be careful with him and try and keep him fit, because he's doing a lot of good for us at the moment.
He is, and then hopefully Joe Johnson won't be too far out from coming back. Obviously, he did have quite a big injury and had to have surgery, I believe, but he seems to be sort of back in training in a small part at the moment. On the other side, we haven't seen Walters back yet, but he's another one who's back on the grass but not fully fit yet. So we are getting those wing-back or full-back options back fit, and hopefully it does allow us to rotate a bit more in those areas, so we're not running the likes of Bramwell and Adoffin and Jones into the ground.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Walters seems to have been close for a while, so it may be that we see him against Exeter or at the weekend against Fleetwood, or even if it's kind of off the bench and building up those minutes. It's a good opportunity for a lot of players that are looking for minutes. I mean, there's a lot of them. Looking ahead to tomorrow and Saturday, you'd be surprised if Shea, Anderson, Makosso, Ali, Nakamba, who else have you got? Nelson, and then you've got Nordas and Bode. It's a a fair few players there that can't, for whatever reason at the moment, injuries or otherwise, get in the squad. So I think we're going to see a fair amount of rotation tomorrow and probably on Saturday as well, with a sprinkling of the senior players. Maybe the likes of Saville stays in there as well.
And we might also see someone like Finley Evans come in tomorrow as well after his last game in the competition. But we'll talk a bit more about those upcoming cup games after this quick break. Welcome back to the Oak Road Hatter podcast. You're still joined by myself and Adam, and we're talking a bit more about those cup competitions now because, as you mentioned there, we've got trips. Well, we've got a home game against Exeter on Tuesday night in the EFL Trophy or the Virtue Motors Trophy or whatever it's called now. It's not the Pizza Cup anymore. It's been the Milk Cup. It's been the Pizza Cup. It's now the Second-Hand Car Cup. So we've got an opportunity here to get through to the next. I don't know what round we're in now. You mentioned there's 3 or 4 games that are from being at Wembley, which is somewhat surprising given it feels like we've barely played in the competition at all with the weird group stage with the under-21 side from the Premier League in as well, which is a waste of time if you ask me, and from pretty much any other fan in the country of an EFL side. There's only one under-21 side left in the competition, that's West Ham, and you can't see them going on a run in that cup, really, can you? I don't know if anyone would be happy about that, except maybe the West Ham under-21s players.
Yeah, I mean, I have the same thoughts as you when it comes to that competition and like putting the academies of Premier League teams in it. I mean, if you wanted any more evidence if it works or not, this is the season to look at it because I don't know what it was like last season, but I can't remember a 21s team getting very far in it, and one have made it through the group stage. But regardless, so what tomorrow night is the round of 32, which means that a win tomorrow and 3 more wins, we would be at Wembley. So it does beg the question, other than the league, where do we prioritise? Do we prioritise the FA Cup and try and get a good game or a bit of a money earner? Although I've said before, I don't think we necessarily need that given what's happened to us the last few years. Or do we try and get everybody on a day out at Wembley where it would be like the Johnson's Paint against Scunthorpe where we had 40,000 and they had about 1,400, I think. I could see a day like that. But yeah, I think I think your preference is the FA Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm an old school football fan. Despite being 25, I think I've got the heart of a 55, 60-year-old in terms of my footballing opinions. In some cases, mainly around the FA Cup. I don't think the replay should have been scrapped, as most people don't. And I think the third round is maybe my favourite day in the football calendar, bar maybe opening day and Boxing Day. I just think it's got so much to it. So I'm really hoping we get through that against Fleetwood. We've obviously got to go there on Saturday with a very small away end. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't have been expecting to go to Fleetwood this season, but that is the case, and I'm sure a few people will be going out in Blackpool or something afterwards. Not in Fleetwood, I imagine, but maybe they are, and each to their own. But I think they're both an opportunity to get minutes into sort of fringe players. And you've mentioned already, we've got such a massive squad that I think we need to stay in those competitions to keep everyone happy and keep everyone fit as well, because you never know when we're going to be calling upon some of those sort of fringe players to play in the league regularly because of availability and just general injuries and fixture congestion as well. So it isn't a bad thing in terms of we have got the players available in the squad and the squad depth to commit to aside to those competitions as well, which I think isn't a bad thing at all.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a mixture, isn't it? You've got players that can't get a look in because they're out of favour, and I've mentioned a few of them like Ynordas and Bode and Zach Nelson and Nakamba, and then you've got players that are coming back from injury, like Walters, like Shaden Morris, and then I mean even players like Kadir that he probably doesn't fall into either bracket there. He's not out of favour and he's not injured, but he just seems to be on the bench and makes an impact off the bench. It's a good opportunity for someone like him to start in one of those games as well. So yeah, I mean, if we didn't have a deep squad or we didn't have a lot of players to choose from with a load more injuries, I'd be a bit more concerned about all the games we've got coming up. But because our squad is so deep and a decent amount of players are fit, it's a good opportunity to rotate, to give minutes to players. And also it's a good time of year to do that, because for Wilshere and the staff, they can really use these couple of games as well to understand, are certain players going to make an impact, and do I want them around beyond January? And if the answer is no, because they don't fit into the style of play, or they're just not at the level that Wilshere and co want, then you're only 4 weeks away or so from the window being open and being able to move them on and bring in some more as well. So I know we're jumping the gun a little bit there, but it's almost a bit of a last chance for a couple. I'm thinking more along the likes of Nordas and Bode. It's almost the last chance for them this season to really make an impact. Otherwise, they may be moved out on loan or whatever.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bode goes out on loan anyway. I think if he hadn't signed on deadline day, he probably would have been loaned out anyway after we signed him, but we probably just didn't have enough time for that.
Yeah.
He's not a bad player by the looks of it. He's a very young, and he's got some real physical attributes that make him look like a very high level player sort of in the future, but he needs that consistent game time to get some confidence and sort of really develop. And I think a loan probably to League Two, you'd imagine, is exactly the sort of thing he needs. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of clubs in there that are looking for a striker that they can bring in on loan and obviously not pay a fee for, and have someone lead the line for them. So I think, yeah, getting him out on a loan would be useful. And Nordas as well obviously won't help your 20 goal for this season call. I don't know what happens if he gets 20 goals for another club though. Does that mean
it still counts? Yeah. I never said it was exclusive to us. Yeah, I mean, you look at him as an example, and he can't get in the squad, and yet at the weekend we had 3 wingers on the bench, but not an out and out striker, and I think that probably says a lot. I don't think his attributes are suited to the way Wilshere wants to play, in the way we build up and we try and move up the pitch. And for that reason, I don't see Wilshere's style of play from what we've seen so far changing either. So I do think he's on borrowed time at the club now. Whether we can move him out in January on the loan with a view to a permanent somewhere, or whether it's a straight sale, remains to be seen. But I don't see a future for him at Luton based on what we've seen from Wilshere over the last couple of months. And I think there's an opportunity to strengthen the squad again in the summer a little bit. So some players will have to make way.
And we're obviously playing Exeter tomorrow night, Tuesday in the trophy. They're struggling a bit this season in League One. They're obviously down in 20th, just above the relegation zone, and they've struggled in recent games. But I think they'll see it as a bit of a free hit. I think they'll go fairly strong as well, because they won't have the depth that we obviously have. I don't think many clubs at this level have the depth that we've got in terms of just the sheer number of players. We've got a massive squad and a lot of young players that don't even need to be registered as well. So they'll probably go quite strong into it as well, and be looking at using it to get some form back into them as well ahead of their next league game against Wimbledon. So it's a difficult one to predict what they'll do. I think they're a side that can be pretty dangerous on their day. Obviously, Wareham up front's already got 5 goals this season, which isn't a bad sort of number for a team that don't win that often. They've lost their last 2 as well, scoring just 1 goal in that time against Bradford and Leighton Orient as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up and how seriously they take it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that a smaller squad for them could force their hand into not going strong, because they are right now in a place in the league they don't want to be. They've got obviously FA Cup Saturday as well, and then a lot of league games before the end of the year, and their priority will have to be the league. So you think, well, they're clearly not a club with huge finances as well. So a third round, if they beat Wickham in the FA Cup at the weekend, like a third round tie, bumper tie for them, is a lot more valuable financially than it is to us, and a lot more financially valuable than a place in the last 16 of the Virtue Trophy. So I would say they're probably more inclined to be stronger on Saturday in the FA Cup than tomorrow night. Obviously, it could be very wrong, but for us, it has to be an opportunity. You're playing a home game against a League One team that aren't really in form or doing much this season. Even with a rotated team for us, I would expect us to win that game reasonably comfortably. I'm not saying we're going to smash them or anything like that, but we should have more than enough with even 6 or 7 changes to progress through that game.
And then on Saturday, obviously playing Fleetwood away from home, I think they'll really be looking at it as an opportunity to get a bit of an upset against a side that, we're a very talked about side still, even though we are in League One. And for a League Two side who have just lost to MK Dons in the game just gone, and they're playing against Tranmere tomorrow as well. So they'll be looking to use it as an opportunity to sort of get into the third round as well, because they are another side who could do with the money to invest back into the club as well. So we're going to Highbury, not that Highbury, and we're also playing against a side that play at St James's Park, not that St James's Park, in the space of a week. It feels like a long time since we were able to do that in the Premier League. Obviously, Highbury no longer being there anyway, so it doesn't really help that argument there. But it's two sides who'll be keen to get a result against us to progress into the next round of the respective competitions.
Yeah, and I think the game on Saturday for us is probably the harder of the two, just for the reasons you mentioned there. It's a reasonably long journey, and it's a team that will back themselves at home and obviously want to progress as well. So I look at those two fixtures and I think the harder of the two is definitely going to be the away cup game on Saturday. But it would be nice to see us progress again, wouldn't it? It'd be nice to see us, if we can get through the game with a reasonably changed team, win it reasonably comfortably and not come out with any injuries. That's the three things that we're all just hoping for across the next 2 games. And then we can really kick on in the league. And as I say, like we've got, after that game, we've got five league games before New Year, 3 of which are at home, and all against teams that aren't necessarily right up there as well. So yeah, look, let's just get through the next 2 games, see what happens. But for me, it's all around finishing the year strongly in the league.
Yeah, it is all about getting into the sort of next year, so the new year, in a positive run of form where we're in a strong league position. With it being so tight, we have got the opportunity in the remainder of 2025 to push up the table as high as we can get and really get into cementing ourselves in the playoff positions at least, or start chasing Cardiff at the top. Obviously, that is a big ask at the moment because Cardiff are a very strong side and they've got some really talented players, as we saw when we played them. But we've also got a very, very good side and a lot of resources at our disposal compared to sides around us.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is really where our talent and our depth should come out. When you've got fixture congestion, we've had a little bit more than others as well because of postponing international games. But when the fixtures really start to fall as often as they do, and typically they do around sort of December, January as well, this is where we really need to stand out and we need to rotate the squad accordingly, because we've got an abundance of talent on the bench as well. So, jumping ahead a little bit, but I'm sort of looking beyond the next 2 games, thinking with the five league games between the 9th and the 29th, if we can pick up 10 points, something like that, 3 wins and a draw, something like that, we'll be in a pretty good place. I'm sure we'll be in a top 6 place come the turn of the year, and then I really want to see us kick on from there as well.
Yeah, so it's a big week, obviously, in the cup competitions, but for getting players fit as well. And I think that is the main focus, as we've mentioned there, but getting through to the next round isn't a bad thing as well in the FA Cup. And we'd love to know your thoughts on what we should be prioritising, whether it's the Virtue Motors Trophy or the FA Cup. If there's a side in the next round you'd like to get us drawn against as well, we'd love to know your reasons why. So let us know in the comments as always. But from myself and from Adam, I think that's everything from what has been a pretty busy episode, talking about 3 results and 2 upcoming games. So there's a lot of games coming thick and fast for Jack Wilshere's side at the moment, but it seems to be going in a positive direction. I hasten to say through sort of rose-tinted spectacles.